of this, what sits on top of all of this is the question of, do you want to grow? Because let's be honest, some of us are comfortable where we are. And we don't want to put in the work or the time because we like things how they are right now. That's pastor and laity. So you have to be honest. Do you want to grow? Do you want to put in the time? Do you want to make the sacrifices that are necessary for growth? Because you can't keep telling the pastor we need a youth ministry and you're not willing to work the youth ministry. And pastors, you can't keep asking your congregation to do things that you yourself are not willing to do. It goes both ways. So, do you want to grow? And are you willing to make the changes necessary for growth? I'm almost done. And I don't mean that in a Baptist way. I'm a former Baptist. As we look to move forward, I just want to offer some words of wisdom and encouragement. The first is don't bite off more than you can chew. As you're looking to make changes, which we call goal setting, set some goals, don't bite off more than you can chew, but take small, smart bites. Of course, we know SMART stands for specific, goals that are specific, goals that are measurable, goals that are achievable. Is this realistic for me in my context and congregation? That's an important question. Because if you set a goal that's too high, then you're going to discourage, morale is going to be low, and then people are going to just stop. So you have to really consider the goals that you're setting. And then I'm not saying you can't set a large goal, but there's a way to do that. So you have to have some milestones in between to work towards that goal, right? So goals, you want a specific, measurable, achievable, realistic. And time, put a time on it. By this time, we want to have this done. By this time, we want to have this done. And then you're assessing along the way, why haven't we gotten this done? What do we need to make this happen? So those are checks that you have to do periodically, not just at church conference, but there might be some checks in between your church conference, quarterly conference, and whatnot. So taking small, smart bites. And then, of course, we know, because Bishop has drilled this into us, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? But I want to add, we are not a one-man or woman show. We work with our congregation to get the job done. So pastors, it's not all on your shoulders, but it is. But it's also on the laity as well. So again, you can't keep suggesting things we need to do and not be willing to work and put in the time to get it done. Also, be okay with making mistakes. You have to take a risk to do anything. Risk is involved. So be willing to make mistakes. And laity, when the mistake happens, don't beat the pastor up. Because just as much as you feel discouraged, that pastor does as well. So mistakes are going to happen. Failures are going to happen. But look at them as opportunities for growth and correction. Not to call the bishop or the elder. And then be gracious with yourself and others. So in those mistakes and with those failures, that doesn't mean you are a failure. It just means you got another opportunity to try again. And then keeping in mind that this is not a marathon. This is a marathon and not a sprint. People are still shaking the dust off from COVID. We're still reacclimating. We're still trying to re-enter the space of ministry and work. So give grace and time for that, but not too much time because we know how people can be. All right. Realize that what works for some will not work for others. So just because Allen Temple and Woodstock is doing whatever it is they're doing, Joseph Cousin, don't mean that I need to be trying that at Grace Chapel. Everything that looks good may not be good for your context and your congregation. So you got to have some wisdom with that. And then what we used to do may not be what we continue to do. We have to be willing to change. We have to be flexible in our attempt. So our message doesn't change, but our method certainly may have to. Amen. And then, of course, finally, we have to try. So our recommendations real quick, and we've talked about this before. We have to increase our digital footprint, make sure our website and or our app is up to par. Streaming capabilities. If 40% of people are going to church online, that's self-explanatory. E-giving. Every church should have some form of electronic giving at this point. And then, conference calls are still not bad. Zoom, we're still using that. All of that is still relevant. Also, radical hospitality matters. Radical hospitality matters. How people feel when they enter your church matters. Relevant preaching and teaching matters. We should not still be doing the same Bible studies over and over and over again. Mix it up. And encourage your people to read. So when you do the book studies, do the Bible studies, do a variety of things that will keep people attached and engaged at your church. And I'm going to recommend one. I have a slide of books listed, but there's one that I want to offer. There's a book, everybody's like, I just don't understand why evangelicals, how they could back Trump and how this could happen and that can happen. There's a book out called Jesus and John Wayne, written by Kristen Dumais, D-U-M-E-Z. And she takes you through the history of conservative evangelicalism to explain how Christians could back someone like Donald Trump. And so that question came up so much during that time. And we're looking like, I don't know, I don't see how it could happen either. Well, that book really explains it. I promise you, if you do that book with your congregation, especially as we're entering election season, I think it will truly engage and keep your members engaged. And it's a theological history, so it's not Bible per se, but it is theology, right? And then create beloved communities throughout your church. You may call them class leader groups. Others have called them affinity groups or just small groups. But yeah, and look at doing some things beyond the four walls. Go to the movies. Go play, Top Golf. Go to Top Golf. Do some things outside of the church that people would be interested in doing so that you can help build those communities within your church. And then look at implementing some community programs. If you have space in your church during the week that's not being used, start a Mother's Day Out group. Or start a community garden. Doesn't have to be anything huge. Get some raised boxes. Get the Boy Scout troop in your area to build some raised garden boxes so that you and your congregation can go out and garden. That's not my thing. I hate gardens, but hey, some people in my church love it. Amen. And then host Little League. If you have the capability, if you have a gym, if you have a softball field nearby, host Little Leagues. But more importantly, remember your first love. Remember your first love. And then last, the books that I promised, there's Evangelism in a Skeptical World, From Good to Great. The 5-Star Church will help you with radical hospitality. And then Leadership by John Maxwell specifically talks about leaders needing to be able to pivot in hard times. Those are excellent books. I've done several of them with my congregation, and it has made a difference. And then the very last slide is, good news, but yeah, the bib. There you go. So just a listing of the sources that we use. Bishop, again, I thank you for this opportunity to serve. Amen. God bless you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very, very much. Any questions for Dr. Fowler? Any questions for Dr. Fowler? Okay, you have your microphone.
I got one. I always, when I hear somebody talk about being friendly when you come to your church, I think about my experience with the church that I'm a member of now. The first Sunday that I went to that church, a little lady was standing at the door, and when I walked in, she said, "Oh, you are a visitor. Welcome to St. John." And she said, "We're so glad to have you today." And she gave me a card, and she said, "Write your name on this card." So I wrote my name, but I didn't write Bishop. I just wrote Carolyn Tyler Guidry. So when that young lady came to introduce the visitors, she read my card, and I stood up when she called my name. The pastor looked around, and he said, "That's one of our retired bishops. That's Bishop Carolyn Tyler Guidry." But the woman who met me at the door didn't know me from Eve. But she greeted me, and I decided at the door that I was going to join that church that morning. And so I keep telling that story so they can keep greeting people like that when they come, and they still do.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Yes.
Good morning, Bishop. Good morning, Pastor and all. So I'm Reverend Ali. I'm with St. Paul A.M.E. in Covington, Georgia. I have encountered a few things in our church over the past 5 years that I've been part of the A.M.E. church. And I tend to refer back to our 2021 Doctrine and Discipline on page 21 in section 2. It says the mission of the A.M.E. church is to minister to the social, spiritual, and physical development of all people. And what I encountered from the first year in our church was a handful of people went to a local head of ministers union to ask that I be removed from the church, only on account of my nationality was the reason given. And over the 5 years, I showed up at one of our last conferences. I said to the gentleman at the door, I wasn't sure what door I should attend. I'm holding my briefcase with my books, my big pocketbook, my robe in my hand. And this man shut the door and walked off. There are times I attend functions for the first time, and I ask, "May I follow you?" Someone would turn and say, "Well, I'm going to an A.M.E. function." And I would say, "But I'm St. Paul, A.M.E. Covington. I guess I can follow you." And, so on and so forth. Are we really paying attention to all that we say that we should be doing and that we represent and our mission and purpose of this church is?
Well, yeah.
And I do know there's a lot of people here in this congregation right now that love me, that welcomes me, that ask me to come and preach at their churches, and so on and so forth. They know my name even when they see me. So let me make that part clear as well. But I just thought I would share what's happening in our churches, and that maybe we need to start retraining our congregation from within.
Well, that was my point yesterday when we talked about leadership and developing leaders. That's part of it. You can't blame people for not doing what they don't know to do.
True,
And
true,
so
Bishop.
people have to be trained and taught. And the brutal reality of it is, and yesterday I had a chance to get some stuff out of my system, So y'all give me another chance today. One of the major reasons why our churches are not growing is we don't want them to grow.
I pray not.
In my home conference in Delaware, there was a church, Siloam, A.M.E. church in Delaware, and they had a young woman was sent there. And the reason I knew the church so well, my aunt's husband pastored that church before he passed. And it was many years ago, but they had not had anybody join that church in over 20 years.
Oh, my Lord.
And so one Sunday she preached, terrific preacher, and a family joined. She thought the congregation would erupt with joy and all. Ain't nobody budged.
Oh, my.
And after service, she went back in the office and came out. And the family that joined were getting ready to leave. And they said to her, Pastor, some of the members told us there's another church closer to where we live and we should go join there.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
The fact is that congregation didn't, in their mind, this was their church. And they didn't need anybody from outside joining it. And that, whether consciously or subconsciously, that's a mindset of many of our churches. Again,
So
80% of folk who are in the church have never brought anybody to their church. So what does it say? You invite people to your house for fellowship, to look at a sporting event. You invite them to your house. But what do we really saying when we never invite them to our church? And so that part of that is training and teaching, which we really don't do. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you,
Yes.
Bishop and Pastor. You mentioned a book, John Wayne, Jesus and John Wayne. Now, I need for you to expound on that. I need to write that down because we are meeting people, those who do go out and do talk about your church and your church family and talk about Jesus, and they're like, I believe in number 45 and all that he says, and I'm saying, how do you take him and you're a Christian and he's talking and doing all kinds of things. So I need to read that book. But one thing I want to touch on concerning people in churches, again, if the people in the church will follow the leader. Churches need shepherds. Lambs cannot shepherd themselves. And if they show hospitality, encourage the people to love and to find that or go back to their first love, and that is telling the world about Jesus Christ and meaning it, they will follow. That's all that.
Thank you, Bishop, for the opportunity. This exhausted, beautiful presentation.
Reverend, use your preaching voice.
Bishop, this exhausting and beautiful presentation that Reverend Dr. Fowler did, I am sure hoping that we can email that out or get that out because it was impossible to take in all of that great information in such a short time period. So I'd like to have it if possible, and I'll get with you and give you my email address. But I think we all need that so that we can revisit it over time. You've done a great work, and thank you so much.
Reverend Daniels, not only will I email it to you, but I will come to Savannah if you want me to.
Oh, don't I know that? Thank you.
I know you do.
All right, any other questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bishop, and thank you, Dr. Fowler. Excellent presentation. Could you, in reference to SMART goals, could you kind of unpack the tension between a SMART goal and a God, kind of like a faith goal when you want to kind of stretch your congregation, and you talk about realistic. I mean, that's kind of subjective. It's, it depends on who's talking about it, because you want to, at one point you want to at least kind of be realistic, but at the same time, this is a walk of faith as well. So how do you mitigate that tension? Thank you.
So, like I mentioned, whatever goal you set, Reverend Logan, there are some goals that people or congregations, it would be nothing for them to do, right? Other congregations, to set a particular goal, may take resources, it may take bringing in people, it may take funds, it may take a number of things to achieve that goal. And so with those types of goals, what I'm saying is you want to kind of measure them out, set milestones to accomplish it, and to get it done. Don't just set the goal and say, hey, we're going to build a new sanctuary, and don't have a plan to get that done. So you have to have even with your goals, there are some goals that you set where you have to have a plan to get that accomplished. So that would be the difference.
First, I want to commend our soror, the Reverend Dr. Greta Fowler, professor at McAfee School of Theology, for her phenomenal presentation, and thank you, Bishop, for this appointment of a church growth person. But to piggyback on what Reverend Ali was speaking, as we are entering and as we are now in Pride Month, right, and it's summer, and kids are out of school, and parents are taking care of kids, and grandparents are getting kids, and we've got all sorts of folks who will start coming to church for or while they're on vacation or for family reunions. I pray and ask that you would give us some tools and strategies to be able to be loving and accepting of all of humankind, right? Like that, that we are welcoming and affirming, because part of what that says is we are liberating people, is that we are liberating of all people, no matter who they are, or what they look like, or who they love. And so maybe in this work you can also give us tools and strategies to dispel some myths about who God says that we are to love and how we are to love.
Yes, ma'am, received. And I would just say on hospitality, I think for me personally, it begins with, and let me be honest. I'm not always the friendliest person because I live in my head, right? Introvert, all of that. But now if you approach me, we're good. You know, I'll talk and all that kind of stuff. But so I just want to name, sometimes what it looks like on the outside may not be what's truly on the inside. For those who truly know me, know that I'm a friendly person. But if you don't and you just look at me, I look mean. I know that about me, right? So know yourself. But even with that being said, for me, hospitality begins with treat someone how you want to be treated. Regardless of who they love, who's in their bed, what you believe or what you don't believe, Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be, treat someone how you want to be treated. That's where it begins. And then all the other stuff. But it begins with treating someone how you want to be treated. Just like the candidate said about, what kind of bishop are you going to be? He said, I'm going to be the kind of bishop that I would want my son's bishop to be. For those of you who were here yesterday, and I probably jacked that all up, but you remember what he said.
Greetings. I just want to commend you for your presentation. Absolutely fabulous. My name is Marguerite Doctor. I pastor in Palmetto, Georgia. And I just wanted you to emphasize the measurable outcomes and to let us know that both quantitative and qualitative measures are important, because I see growth within my congregation that is qualitative and not quantitative. I feel like I'm making disciples and that now they're ready to go out. No, I don't have any conversions. No, I don't have any sessions. But I sure enough have a group of people that have changed tremendously in the time that I have been there. And so I feel like I'm creating disciples. And I've introduced books to them. As a matter of fact, my training institute tomorrow is we're going to read, we've been reading the book, The Speed of Unity by Kelly, and we're going to go over that. I do a training institute last year. It was The Soul of Your Leadership. And at first they were hesitant about the books, but I feel like my qualitative measurements is what I set goals for right now. And then eventually quantitative numbers will come. But I just wanted you to make certain that people don't get caught up in the measurable, meaning just quantitative.
Absolutely. Doctor, right? and so you're speaking to that spiritual growth, right, that we can't always quantify. But my personal belief is that when we grow, and Bishop mentioned this yesterday, when we grow our members spiritually, the numbers come. Because I said in the presentation, I actually have one. She may be watching. I'm not going to call her name. But I have, in the rural churches, you fellowship a lot with Baptist churches, other churches. So one of my members who has joined, she still holds membership in the Baptist church because that's her family church. But she started watching us online and decided, I want to start coming to your church. And so I was like, really? We had the conversation. She is the one right now who's inviting her whole family, not to her Baptist church, but to our church. Because she says she's getting at Grace Chapel what she's not gotten at her local other church, right? And so our members, if you want to advertise, grow your members and they will grow your church. That's my philosophy. That's my personal belief. But you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Any other questions? Now, brothers and sisters, I really pray that we will not only be hearers of the word, but doers as well. And the fact of the matter is, if you're not passionate about church growth and making disciples, your congregation not going to be passionate about it. If it's not a priority for the pastor, it's not going to be a priority for the sheep. And unfortunately, most of us have the idea that growing the church is solely the pastor's job. But that is absolutely biblically and theologically incorrect. Sheep get sheep. And, some churches, we put on our worship folder when we had them, all kind of stuff. And some stuff we just ought to take off. Because why do you keep putting on your bulletin every Sunday, welcome to the visitors? You don't never have no visitors. And the reason we don't have visitors, we're not inviting people. We preach to the same crowd every Sunday. The same crowd gets invited to Christ every Sunday. How many times do you want them to do this? My brothers and sisters, we have to invite people. We have to have, if you have ministries outside the walls of the church and you impact people's lives, they're going to come not because you got 3 points in a hoop, not because the choir can sing. They're going to come because that church ministered to them. I'm going to tell you again, people are not interested in your denominational label. That single mom trying to raise 3 kids wants to know, what does this church have to offer to help me raise my children? Now, that's where it is. Yeah, my brother, my sister, and I must tell you again, if you get to kids, I guarantee you your church will grow. if you get the children, when the parents see that that church takes an interest in their children, you not only get the children, you get their parents. And so I cannot impress upon you enough how important, if there's a school in your neighborhood, it is derelict for any church not to be engaged in the life of that school. You see, the other thing which is critically important, and you see it everywhere, you know, I get a little frustrated sometimes when I hear people talk about, well, does the church have parking? Back in the day, the churches didn't need a parking lot. Because back in the day, the people in the neighborhood came to the church. They walked across the street. They walked up the street and came to church. I guarantee you in 90% of our churches, the folk who come to that church are not the folk who live in that community. We have no relationship with the people in that community. We go on our way to church and one of them cross, we don't even wave at them. Go develop a relationship with the people in the community. Most people in the community view the church as their enemy. They don't do nothing for us. And our response is, well, they don't come to church. Well, Jesus said, launch out into the deep. If you're going to catch some fish, you got to have some bait. So what do you, if folk can't find what they need in your church, they're going to go to some church that got it. So, you know, it's critically important. But you have to be passionate about church growth. You have to be passionate about bringing people to Christ. Now, I'm telling you, the Lord is just good. And if he's all that good to you, I'm not sure why we don't interact. We got folk in our family don't come to church. Now, one thing, if they don't see the change in you, they want to know why you want them to come. I told the folk when I was at St. Matthew, and you have to be at church for a number of years before you did do some of the crazy stuff I did. But when I would go down Main Street in Orange, there was a man out there on the street almost every time I went, I saw him. I mean, he wasn't a bad man, but you could tell he liked his drink. You could just smell it on him. And I wanted to check out my congregation. I wanted to see if they were bougie and all of that. And so I saw the man. And I said, look, I want you to get 2 of your friends. I want you to come to my, in fact, he always called me Rev. That's what he called me. I said, I want you to come to my church on Sunday morning. I said, if you come after church, I'll take you and your friends to lunch. Now that got his attention. I said, I want you to get 2 of your other friends, and I want you to come just as you are. I don't want you getting dressed up. I want you to come just like you are. I wanted to see how the congregation would respond. And I said, I don't want all y'all sit together. I want y'all spread out. And sure enough, Sunday morning, they showed up. Matter of fact, they must have been at church before because they came fashionably 20 minutes late. And they showed up. And 2 of them sat on the left, my left. One the front, one the back. And I was delighted because the people welcomed them well, gave them a bulletin, shook their hand. I was on the other side. The brother came in and sat down. The sister got up and moved. I said, now, ain't that something? She in her hat got up and moved to another row because she didn't want to sit next to this uncomely brother. But Jesus says, come just as you are. So sometimes put your congregation to the test. And next Sunday, tell them what you did because you wanted to see how they reacted. So, you know, good pastoring, you have to be innovative. You have to be innovative. So thank you, Dr. Fowler, for a wonderful presentation. All right, now, brothers and sisters, let me do a couple things real quick, and we'll move on. First, let me say upcoming meetings. The Bishop's Council and General Board.
Bishop,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I can't hold my peace anymore.
Okay, don't hold it.
Thank you. If we want to talk about...
Can you speak up?
If we want to talk about outside the walls, I know these conferences and our meetings are all very essential and important, but we need to have working conferences and meetings. And when I say that, I mean, have we prayed for anybody we've interacted with that work here?
I can't.
I'm sorry. I would like to see more of a working conference. Like when we have annual conferences and meetings like this, and it's not to say people aren't already doing this, but are we praying for the people in the hotels where we're staying? The people who clean our rooms, who check us in, those who did the memory test, are we stopping and praying for them, or the vendors? Are we doing that? Because that invites people. It's almost as if we take this for granted and just come inside and then just leave. Security officers, we need to be stopping and praying for them. They'll be excited that we took the time out to care, to pray for them, because everybody needs prayer. When somebody prayed for me, that brought me to the church. When those that I was attending with stopped praying for me and acknowledging me just to say hi, I stopped going and just belonged to God's church.
Yeah, let me say this. Your point is very well taken, but let me also say, and I said a few minutes ago, if church growth and bringing people to Christ is not important to us, we're not going to do that. I know a number of people, when they stay at a hotel or something, they will ask, what church do you belong to? Or they will ask, how's your day going? And if the person says it's not going well or rough, I know folk who have prayer with them. But again, the issues that you talk about, you are absolutely 100% correct, but that's our own personal.
Absolutely.
You see, and so I'm hoping and praying that we do that on a natural basis.
Absolutely.
Back during the election time, and we were in, I'm not sure if it was in the South Conference or Georgia. I'm not sure which one it was. And my wife was with us. And I asked the lady who was cleaning the room, was she registered to vote? And she said, for what? I said, it's election coming up. She said, I don't know nothing about that. And my wife says, what church do you belong to? She said, none. I felt bad for sis because my wife was all over. You know what I mean? But that's good evangelism. You
Necessary evangelism.
Yes, and so I'm hoping that's something we do. See, again, you ain't got to be in church to invite. You know, if you're walking down the street, how you doing today? I'm doing all right. What church you go to, by the way? So
or where do you get your hope and inspiration from?
Yes. So no, I'm hoping all of us would do that on an individual basis. I certainly hope we will. That's an excellent point.
And if we stop and do that from home before we leave home, we're better prepared to do that once we get wherever it is we're
Sure, when
going.
y'all leave out of here, before you get the vendors your money, ask them. You're in a relationship with Christ.
There you go.
they're going to say, no, this is what we have for sale today. But no, ask them. I think you would be profound.
That's right.
All right. Anybody else before we move on? All right. The General Conference is in New Orleans, Louisiana, and that is June the 19th to the 22nd. What did I say? I was testing y'all. Y'all passed. The General Board and Bishops' Council will be June 19th to the 22nd. Let me say this to y'all again. You know, they're going to throw me out of the council because I'm upset about the Bishops' Council and General Board. And I'm upset because the brothers are not like the sisters. Now, y'all say what y'all want about how men do the sisters, but the men, we really ought to be ashamed of ourselves. And I fuss with the council, and I'm a fuss. When I had my investiture, I intentionally, deliberately made it the last week in June. Now, last two, we've gone back to the same thing. Why would you pull fathers away from their families on Father's Day? Now, I dare any component in here, you schedule a meeting and have it on the Monday after Mother's Day and see what happens. They'll be able to fry egg on your head. But it's like Father's Day don't matter.
Bishop,
Yes.
I want you to know I've been advocating for Father's Day. I went to my Publix the day before Mother's Day, and they had all these balloons and stuff up for Mother's Day. So I went last week, and I asked to see the manager. And I told him that the fathers was upset because they don't decorate like that for Father's Day.
That's right.
And I told him he needed to put up balloons for y'all. So my Publix on Camerton, Fairburn Road, if you come the day before Father's Day, they're going to have a balloon.
Are you going to be to the meeting in New Orleans on that Monday? I want you to join me and tell them they need to make the Bishops' Council yeah, we need the fuss. Yeah. I mean, can you, Regina and Seth want to take me out? And I think the only reason they said it because they knew I had to go to New Orleans. I'm not supposed to, but they'll find a way. Either way, I'm going to pay for it. All right. Anyway, I really do want to encourage you, those who can, to at least come to the General Board and the convo, which starts the day after that afternoon when the General Board meeting ends. Now that meeting, I think, if you can, you really ought to attend. The late biennial, it starts June the 26th, and it's going to be in Chicago. 26th to, I think it's the 29th, the 30th, all right? And I hope all of our lay people, I hope you will attend. Now, in 2025, the 6th, now I won't be the bishop then, but 2025 rather, the 6th district will be the host for the biennial. And I committed to the lay organization that the district will help to finance the hosting of the lay biennial. But in 2025, the biennial will be here in Georgia. And I won't be the bishop, but I'm going to be coming. And I want some royal hospitality. All right? All right. Then in July, beginning the 24th through August the 4th, I believe, is the YPD and WMS quadrennial. And that's going to be in Orlando, Florida. Now let me comment on the meeting in Orlando. I really don't want to go to nothing in Florida under this governor. I really don't want to go to nothing in Florida under Governor Dinatzi. That's what I call him. But the fact of the matter is, the commitment to go to Florida was made some years ago, and the church would lose a lot of money if we just say we're not coming to Florida. So we need to go to Florida. But I'm trying to get the council to have some kind of event, whether it's a press conference, some kind of event where the A.M.E. Church acknowledges that we are in opposition to all this stuff. You know, the governor says he wants the nation to be like Florida. No, we don't. And so the church needs to say that, because the reality is a lot of folk across the country are going to be wondering why the A.M.E. Church is in Florida. And we need to have something to make it clear that we are here because we decided years ago to come, and it would not make good business sense for us to lose money and not be there. But that while we're here, we're going to speak out against this foolishness on critical race theory, opposition to inclusion, diversity, and equity. We need to make that very, very. I'm hoping that we will get T-shirts, and all the thousands of people who are going to be in Florida will wear these T-shirts which express our opposition to what's going on in Florida. Now, that's what I hope we will do. All right? Any questions on any of our meetings coming up? Any questions on any of our meetings? Now, we have 50 tickets. We have 50 tickets. Now, the district will pay for the 50 tickets. So if you're going, you need to let the office staff know, and then when the tickets are gone, then you're on your own. But we're going to pay for the 50. They're $100 a piece. Now, one of the sons of the district, Bishop Stafford Wicker, is going to become president of the council. And I think Georgia ought to show its support for Bishop Wicker as he becomes the president of the Council of Bishops. So we're taking an expensive ad. We're paying for 50 tickets. And I'm upset with Bishop Wicker because he's having some kind of a banquet or something. And I'm going to upset them again. They want to be black tie. I'm going to wear a black suit with a black tie. I do not like tuxedos. They like gorilla suits to me. So when y'all see me, want to know where my tuxedo is, it's in the closet. But I'm going to have on a black suit with a black tie. Is that all right? Who said no? Did you say no, Mathis? Who was that said no? Was that Dr. Moore said no? All right, I want to see you in a gown, Dr. Moore. Praise the Lord. All right. All right, next thing, Dr. Cooper, don't they want us to wear tuxedos? You wearing a tuxedo? Dr. Best, you wearing a tuxedo? Me and Dr. Best gonna stick together. We'll look at your tuxedo and we'll say, go ahead, Dr. Cooper. All right. Next, the General Conference. The General Conference is August 21st to the 28th in Columbus, Ohio. Now, my brothers and sisters, let me say this. They changed the date and the location of the General Conference because the fact of the matter is the city of Cincinnati was not able to accommodate us, not with the housing and not with a whole bunch of other stuff. And the fact is we should never agreed to go to Cincinnati in the first place. But that's what we agreed to do. So when they were not able to provide the hotels nor the transportation, the General Conference Commission voted to move the General Conference to Columbus, Ohio. Columbus could not host us in July, if I'm correct. Is that right, Dr. Cooper? And so that's why we are in August. Now, if there are any of you who got elected a delegate and you happen to be an educator or a teacher and you were not able to get out of school, you need to let us know now. If you're a teacher, an educator, you were elected a delegate, but you know you cannot get away from school, please let us know now. If you are a young adult delegate and you know you're going to be in school, you're going to be in college, then you need to let us know now. Any question on that? If you can't go, please let us know now so we can move an alternate in those spots. Any of our delegates, teachers, all my teachers who are delegates, please stand. Now, somebody in here educated. Dr. Clark, you going to be able to go? All right, I'm looking forward to you being there. Sis Phil, you able to go? All right. Now, don't make me get down and have to look for you. I'm going to say, Dixon, go find them. He going to come looking for you. All right. Thank you so much. All right, my sisters and my brothers, we're going to get ready to adjourn for our lunch period. Lunch is going to be from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Women in ministry, you change your luncheon to 1 o'clock? It's 12? All right, very good. The women in ministry have a luncheon at 12 o'clock. The women, where's y'all luncheon going to be? Where? St. James? If I show up, is that all right? With my who? What's Chuck's? Converse. I didn't know nothing about it. I want you to leave Bishop Guidry home next time. She wants me to go around with a necklace. I hate to think what they be saying about me. All right, we will return at 2 o'clock p.m. Oh, yeah. All right, yeah, let me say this now. Where's Brother Stan? All right, let me say this. Reverend Evans has something now, but let me say this. Now, when you come back, we have some people who have been standing because, sisters, some of y'all have pocketbooks in chairs. I know you hate to do it, but put your pocketbook underneath the chair. Like Reverend Mavis, yeah, put it underneath the chair. Like Elder Mathis, put it underneath the chair. Yeah, so the folks don't have to stand. The bags will not be offended if you put them under the chair. If in the bag say anything, tell Reverend Evans, he's the host pastor. All right? Yes, sir, Reverend Gordon.
Before Reverend Evans come, I just want to take a moment and say I did not want to have a come to Jesus moment with you, so I've registered with WestPath, and I want to also be a testimony that I pulled up my account and the money is looking good.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Gordon. I'm glad you said that. Now, the rest of y'all follow Dr. Gordon. That's what you call leadership. Thank you, Dr. Gordon. All right, Reverend Evans. Give our host pastor a hand.
Again, thank you, Bishop, for this opportunity to serve. We in the Southwest Conference appreciate it. Announcement from Brother Stan Smith for the Sons of Allen. You will meet at Fat Mama Lucy's. Amen. Fat Mama Lucy's restaurant in Phoenix City. The address is 4521 U.S. Highway 80 in Phoenix City. So please make your way to Fat Mama Lucy's.
Let me ask you something. Now, I don't have no problem with the fat, whatever they are. But the 6th District Sons of Allen are having lunch in the 9th District. All right, I just asking.
Amen. Registered persons who registered with the Shift Leadership Network for their luncheon and session, they will meet at St. James as well at noon. So please make your way over there. And I do want to make this announcement once again. Yesterday we received a word that someone went to lunch, Bishop, in the 9th District at Ed's. And they had such a great meal that the young lady left a very nice cane and left it. But they sent it here. I'm not going to show the cane because somebody might want the cane. But if they would know if they left it. It's a really nice cane. So if that is you, if you are here, please see me. I have it. If not, I think people are going to try to get it after tonight. Thank you, Bishop.
All right,
see you all this afternoon.
Thank you. All right, we stand adjourned until 2 o'clock p.m.